I swear that the past few years seems to have brought about some sort of renaissance of farming simulator games. Not that this is a bad thing, I for one do look forward to seeing where things go in the genre. After Harvest Moon drifted apart with Natsume handling their own take on the farming sim using the Harvest Moon name as they held the license to it, and Marvelous choosing to adapt Story of Seasons for its titles, we've seen a few farming sims pop up. The most notable and well-known one being Concerned Ape's Stardew Valley, a game I'd reviewed previously. Today though, we're looking at another farming sim, one which came out only a month earlier than Stardew Valley. The game in question is Wayward Prophet's World's Dawn. I will apologise about video quality here, Shadowplay didn't really want to play ball with resolution until an update a few days before I finished gathering footage fixed that up. This would explain why any footage in winter looks better than everything else. In World's Dawn you can play a male or female farmer who moves into Sugar Blossom Village, a sleepy seaside village inhabited by good-natured people. As you explore the village and meet its inhabitants, you'll discover that Sugar Blossom Village has a few empty buildings, and once you get a feel for the game, you find that the land was once more prosperous thanks to Noah, the farmer who lived on the farm that you live in now. Noah had arrived in Sugar Blossom Village in dire times because of a dry season, but he was able to save the village by befriending the feral shades, the spirits of nature who brought bountiful harvests and clean water back to the village. Noah was able to save the town and things were good for 30 years or so. Unfortunately, 3 years before the start of the game, Noah and his wife passed away. They were well loved by the people in the village, and in their grief, the villagers had sort of forgotten about the feral shades, and as a result their powers started fading and the village began to fall on tough times again, with some villagers having to move away. Your goal in the game is to locate and befriend the feral shades once more to restore Sugar Blossom Village back to the prosperous village it once was. Along the way you'll grow and harvest crops, take care of animals, go fishing and mining, meet and befriend villagers, and maybe even find love. But is the game any good? Find out in The Good. For a game made in RPG Maker of all things, World's Dawn has really impressed me with its presentation, layout and features. The game has several minigames you can play as you attend festivals, and even has its own minigame in the form of Lockball, a football-esque game where you go one-on-one against another villager to get the ball into their goal, with your skills at the game increasing the more you win. Villagers will wager money, and if you do win, Lockball then just becomes another source of income alongside farming, mining, fishing and doing part-time work in the village. Part-time work is a good way for you to earn a little bit of money while befriending the villagers you're working for at the same time. It also skips a portion of your day. On the topic of befriending villagers, you can't give them gifts willy-nilly as they'll refuse any item you gift unless it's one they like. Thankfully, you get given a notebook once you meet everyone which will give you an idea what characters like, and by watching TV at home you can discover the one thing that they fancy over everything else. I really like the fact villagers can mention upcoming festivals, and even still talk about festivals once they've been. Your TV at home also gives you insight on recipes to make in the kitchen, and drinks to mix, as well as a lottery every Friday where you have a chance to win money. The interactions and impact your character has in the game is amazing, and the fact that the game was made in RPG Maker VX was something I can't not be impressed over. The amount of secrets in this game was something I really enjoyed as well. The game features a classic trade sequence where you're given an item and you trade that item with other villagers, ultimately receiving something nice in the end. You can get a shovel in the game which you can use to dig up the ground for money, bait for fishing, or you can encounter a sage glop, a slime which will ask you a question about the game's world and the villagers. If you answer correctly, then the glop will reward you before leaving. If not, bad luck, try again another time. Digging can also reveal to you an ocarina which you can play when you hear a certain sound effect. This will summon a spirit who will help you in becoming better friends with certain villagers. Certain animals around the area also hold secrets and will reward you if you humour their requests or reach certain numbers of achievements through your adventure. I found these certainly kept me busy and retained my interest in the game alongside the usual affair of farming. The villagers themselves I grew to like over the course of the game. World's Dawn has 32 villagers you can befriend with 4 bachelors and bachelorettes. At the beginning when you select your farmer, you have a choice of romancing the opposite sex, the same sex, or both. Each villager has their own charming personalities, and if you explore their houses you can find a letter from another villager which gives you a glimpse on how they interact with one another, as well as a better idea of their personalities. As you progress in the story, more villagers will return and some will even provide services for you. I enjoyed the sprite work and art for the villagers, and their personality certainly adds to the charm and atmosphere of the overall game. Even little things like having some villagers change clothes each season was a really nice touch. As much as I like things in World's Dawn, it isn't perfect, so let's look at what wasn't so good with the bad. There were a couple of things I wasn't a big fan of, with one of them being that in certain festivals, if you don't win, you have the opportunity to keep going until you do win. It sort of defeats the competitive nature of a lot of the festivals and really rigs things in your favour. Redoing events won't take up time, and it's hard to believe that villagers are willing to re-accept your challenge and hold off a victory ceremony until you win. I found that the game's story, while good, was a little on the short side. Whenever I review a farming sim, I tend to play one in-game year. I was able to finish the main story of World's Dawn within the first year, and I was a little disappointed with the lack of post-game content. I understand that the developer wanted to have additional features such as having children, which unfortunately didn't make it in due to time and budget constraints. Another thing the developer would have liked to have done was port the game onto other platforms, which would have been something I would have liked to see. The lack of post-game content though I think is more of a minor thing, so I won't dwell on it too much. Other than that, there isn't much else to talk about here, so it's about time I give the opinion. World's Dawn is a fantastic game made in RPG Maker VX. I've reviewed other RPG Maker games in the past, but World's Dawn really takes the cake in impressing me with what the engine is capable of. I really enjoyed the game's story, setting, music and characters, and the only problems I had with the game were very little things. World's Dawn is a very cozy, casual-paced game, and it's a game that you can take your sweet time in. If you enjoyed games like Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, and Stardew Valley, then World's Dawn is right up your alley. I'd also recommend it if you're a fan of slower-paced casual games for its cozy nature. I would also like to thank the game's developer David Grunt for answering some questions I had about the game so I could get the right information for this review. Wayward Prophet are currently working on another game called A Story Beside, and I'll be interested in what that game has to offer moving forward. Do I think that World's Dawn steps out of Harvest Moon's shadow? Yes, I would consider the game a good game in its own right. It took the classic Harvest Moon formula and improved on it in its own way, much like how Stardew Valley did the same. So with that, it's time for my rating. I would give World's Dawn a pumpkin out of 10. Sadly, the game features no turnips, but I'm going to let it slide. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.